Right. Morning, everybody. Hope you can all hear me. Excellent introduction there from Eagle. Thank you very much. So my name's Charlie England. I'm the Portfolio Reporting Manager at Paddy Power Betfair. What I'm going to talk to you today is the formation of Paddy Power Betfair as a company, why we picked Targetprocess, the value that we're getting out of Targetprocess to help us collaborate for visibility and reporting, and as we touched on there, just a few things that we're thinking about doing in the future. So let's kick off. So what's Paddy Power Betfair? Paddy Power Betfair is the FTSE 100 company that was formed a couple of years ago from two FTSE 250 companies, Betfair and Paddy Power. Fairly easy. We are basically, there's 7,000 of us across 14 global locations, do 100 million transactions daily, and we've got 5 million customers. So we are basically a very big gaming operator across the globe. So why did we pick Targetprocess? When we merged those two organizations together, we had two organizations that have very, very strong cultures internally. We were absolute animals to each other in terms of competitiveness. We used to try and do each other over all the time. So we had to bring these two companies together and form one culture amongst us. Paddy Power had Lean Kit. Betfair had Rally. We all had Jira all over the place. I think we're still trying to wheedle it out somewhere. So one of the first things that we thought we'd do is we need one tool that can basically manage all of us, bring us all together, get rid of the legacy baggage, and start us all working together. So we went out to market, had a look at a few of the usual suspects, and we selected Targetprocess. There's a number of reasons why we selected Targetprocess and the functionality that it gave us. So, as I said, we wanted one tool to manage across technology. It's actually gone a bit further than that now. We're actually using Targetprocess to work with our colleagues in the commercial organisation to manage our basically supply and demand of our organisation and the products that we produce for our customers. So when I say one tool across technology, just to give you an idea on the scale of that, we've currently got 1,300 users. So we've got 1,300 active licenses on Targetprocess at the moment. What we also put there is around managing third parties. We use third parties to deliver some of our core functionality, but we can't let them see what some of their other competitors who work with us do as well. So we have to segment them off so they can only see certain parts of the things that we do. But like Bernard was saying, generally though, we keep all of our backlogs open, so everyone's an observer, so we can sort of see and have that transparency and visibility across the organisation. So we wanted a trusted source of work that's being done. So my role as the reporting manager is I need to understand what we're working on, where we're making our investment, what that return's going to be. We needed a source of truth for that, and in Targetprocess we have that. We have our teams doing all their work structured in Targetprocess, and we track that, and then we pull that out, and I'll talk a bit more a bit later on about some of the reporting that we're producing and where that goes. We wanted that consistent reporting to enable decision making. So with that data that we've got, we then present that up, and that goes right up to our exco and our investment decision board, where we present that data to them, and that informs them to help them make the right decisions how we're going to move our business forward. Bit of jargon, everyone likes a bit of jargon. We're also using this for continuous improvement. So the reporting that we do is not dry reporting around the number of user stories that's been done, how far we're progressing in projects. It should be around like what's actually going on in the organisation, where have we got opportunities to improve. We take the information that we're pulling out of Targetprocess, we try and identify bottlenecks in how we're working and look to see what we can do to drive that improvement on that. And it's also around the promotion of agile ways of working. So both in Paddy Power and particularly in Betfair, we had a strong culture of agile ways of working in the traditional areas of where you work with agile, so development, software development. What we're doing is, when I say we're talking about the whole of technology using Targetprocess, I'm talking about infrastructure, I'm talking about data, I'm talking about security, as well as our delivery teams and the DevOps functions that we've got. So what we're doing with Targetprocess is we're embedding a way of working and working with the tool to actually drive that culture and drive that way of working across the business. Another important piece for us is around team allocation. So with team allocations, this allows us then to do some forward planning in terms of forecasting around capacity, making sure people are working on the right things, try and get an idea where we're either overloaded or underloaded with that. The areas you can see in red, obviously, that's where a team has got some conflict in the resourcing that they're doing, and we use this a lot now to actually sort of like give us some information around like how we're operating as a business. Okay. Another thing that's important for us is we have an understanding of like what we're working on. So we have 3 categories of work. We have projects, quite obviously. We have something called technical maintenance, which is left up to the delivery teams to actually decide what they need to sort of like pay off in terms of technical debt, bug fixing, compliance, regulatory, audit type work. And then we have BAU, which is, stands for small incremental improvements that will come down from our commercial organisation into our delivery teams to deliver. Why this is important to us is we've set a ratio out that this should be 70-20-10, so 70% projects, 20% BAU, 10% technical maintenance. And that's all to do with our budgetary responsibilities and like how we're operating. The other thing that we've got in here is that we also capitalise some of our development work. So that takes money off the bottom line because we sort of like say that that development work is non-taxable. And that, just so you know, that chart there is pulled directly out of Targetprocess. Okay, so in terms of like how we use reporting, this is a standard team dashboard, a standard Scrum team dashboard. 4 fairly sort of standard measures that we've got in there: throughput, cycle time, quality, and predictability. This would be used by a team manager or a department manager to see how a particular team is working, or for the team itself, actually, just to sort of like have a look at their progress, sort of see where they are, see where they might have some areas of improvement if they're doing what they expect. And what we do from this data that we have here, this is at the team level, we then also roll that up into, we then roll that up into a more function or department-wide measurement. So again, this chart here is pulled directly from Targetprocess. We produce a monthly performance report around like how technology is performing. And what we've got here is we're saying these 5 teams here have got the largest decrease in throughput, so their work's slowing up. They're not getting as much done as they have been previously. Now, the question here is, it's not like, right, okay, we're going to go around and get a big stick and give these teams a good kick in. This is around an opportunity for us to come up and sort of say, right, what's going on, guys? Like, what's happening here? What's the story? Can you help us out to understand what's going on? So, you know, half the team could have been sick. It could be vacations. You know, as we said, we're working across multiple sort of like countries. Everyone has different bank holidays. There could be something like that. Also, this would be a call to action in terms of our continuous improvement team or our agile coaches to come in and go and have a chat with these guys and say, like, look, what's going on? What can we do and what can we help you with? Okay, so where we're also taking the reporting, and this is where helping out the decision making, and key part of my role as a portfolio reporting manager is taking the data from Targetprocess and presenting that up to our senior management level, up to our exco, around what we're doing. So one of these is basically we take from the capacity planning that I showed earlier on, we then take the data out of Targetprocess, we'll then put that into a spreadsheet, unfortunately at the moment, and we will start looking at the amount of available capacities teams have upcoming. That then gives us an idea on like where we can put work in, where we can move teams around to help other teams who are struggling, or a project that's struggling. We also have then rolled this up into the chart I showed earlier on around the work type. We roll that up into a total sort of like effort allocation. So again, we can see across technology like how we're operating, what we're doing, the percentage of work that we got, are we hitting our targets around the numbers that we've got? And finally, it always comes down to the pounds. So what we do is we take data from Targetprocess around the effort expended by the teams, we pull that out, and then we apply a cost to that with our finance team to show the amount of money that we've actually spent on the various projects, so we can track against our budget and our investment to make sure we're working on the right things. Right, finally, I'll get on to what we're up to next. So, as an organisation, we are shifting very much to become outcome-focused, business outcome-focused. So my CTO at the moment is determined that we're not going to start talking about outputs. It's around outcomes. It's around outcomes that solve solutions for the business. It provides what we need to do for the business. So as part of that, the first thing that I've been tasked with getting a measure for is something called time to value. Now, I was asked to go out and find out, get me a metric for time to value. Okay, so I went out, I spoke to some usual suspects at Google, I spoke to people at Spotify, I spoke to people at various places. I said, right, what's time to value mean? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, right, okay, so I'm making this up then. Right, okay, great. So we went out and we're actually using data from Targetprocess from when a project goes into or leaves business casing and goes into the completed state, which is states on our project workflow. And then we're looking at that and calling that the time to value metric. And we're pulling that out and sort of seeing like how long it's taking. Roughly at the moment, projects are taking around about 200 days to deliver. We've got a target to reduce that by 50%. So that's a use case where Targetprocess is providing us the data that we're then pushing back in to help us run the business. In terms of the ratio of predictability, we have projects of all different sizes. So what we're doing is we're putting a ratio on that so that we can actually sort of like measure projects equally depending on what the size is, whether they're like a 2-sprint project to a 18-month project. Also, you had a mention of Spotify model already. Seems to be a bit of a buzzword at the moment. So we are moving to a tribes model in our business to focus on outcome. We're taking our own slant on it. We're having what we're calling home tribes, who will be sort of like component owners and have certain business features that they own, and they'll be measured on whether they perform. And then we also have what we're calling focus tribes, which are tribes where we'll pull together to deliver a certain business outcome. To me, it sounds a bit like old school matrix management, but I have to keep quiet about that. And what we're doing on that is basically taking out the squads that we've got under the tribes and bringing those together to deliver those certain outcomes. In terms of what we're doing for that, we have to reorganize the business to do that, and we have to reorganize Targetprocess to support that, and to change the ways of working so that we can facilitate that. So that's an ongoing thing that we're doing. It's going to be quite tricky, like how we're going to put that in place, but like I'm sure that's something that we can get across. And the flexibility we've got with Targetprocess around like how we can cut the data, how we can move the teams or allocate the teams to different pieces of work should help us immensely in that. So, as you said, the focus on outcomes, we're becoming more commercially aligned. So again, what we're doing with our reporting and the data we've got in Targetprocess, we're going to start pulling that out and start looking at and putting that against sort of measurable business outcomes. So we're looking at flow reports. So for that, it's like on our projects, as I said, but we've got projects that are taking roughly 200 days on average to deliver. Where's the block on that? Are we spending too much time in the pitching section? Are we spending too much time in the business case preparation? Are we not? Where are we having these challenges? Why are we not increasing our throughput of work? So we'll be pulling that data from Targetprocess. We've actually got that. That report's gone live this month. We're doing cost analysis. So I want to do benefits realization, but in a very complex estate like Paddy Power Betfair, understanding where you've made a change and where you're delivering the value of that change is quite complicated. So we're going at baby steps at the moment. So we're doing very simple cost analysis to start with. So we're going to be taking like the estimates that we've got at the beginning of the business case and then comparing that against the effort expended towards the end of when the project comes to the end. Again, data we're pulling from Targetprocess. This old chestnut, integration with other tools. We have ServiceNow in place. I'm sure loads of you guys have also got ServiceNow. So for us, ServiceNow is our system of record around our services, so change management, incident management. We'll probably be looking at what we can do around getting Targetprocess to integrate with ServiceNow so incident work gets pushed back into the team's backlogs automatically, and how when work comes out of Targetprocess, it goes through the change process when we're changing our production environment. We're massive consumers of continuous delivery. We are pretty much at the cutting edge of delivering virtualized private cloud infrastructure. And we're combining those two things up. So our delivery pipelines are for applications to our production environment, and also the infrastructure that supports that. So the VMs, or going to be containers, that those applications sit on. At the moment, Targetprocess we're not tying the user stories that we've got with those continuous delivery pipelines. One thing that I want to do is get that whole workflow joined up so that we make sure that what people are saying they're doing in their user stories, it can actually be traced to what's being delivered in production. Loads of benefits for that to sort of see analysis on like what's working, what isn't. And finally, the artificial intelligence generated backlog. So we've got a strategy team who go away and come up with lots of bright ideas around what we're going to do with new technology. Their thought is that they want to start taking customer feedback from our CRM tools and chat tools where we interact with our customers. They want to pump that through some sort of machine learning, some sort of artificial intelligence engine to pull that out and then automatically populate backlogs in Targetprocess with those customer requirements to put those automatically on the team's backlogs and deliver those. So that to me sounds quite interesting, and we'll have to see where that's going to go. But I think with Targetprocess and the functionality we've got with the API integration we've got, I think we should be able to do a really good job with that. So we'll see where we go. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, so let's see if we have any questions on Slido to Charlie after this great presentation. Zakar, you're doing that? Great.
Yeah, until it's loading, Charles, someone mentioned beautiful English accent.
Really? Blimey, that's the first I've heard that.
And the first question is, do you keep financial data of your projects in Targetprocess?
No, we don't at the moment. We have an ongoing debate with my finance partner around that. It was certainly something that I would have liked to do a bit more of, but he's quite reticent, and I have to go with him. He owns the purse strings. I'll just do as I'm told. But like, we don't keep that in there. Potentially, I think we will start putting some sort of cost estimation in Targetprocess, because, as I said, if we've got that in Targetprocess, single source of truth, we can then start doing a bit more effective reporting on like matching the two numbers up.
Next question is about performance of Targetprocess. So how does it currently work with 1,300 concurrent users and with the future plans of more licenses?
Yeah, I mean, performance with TP on that is pretty good. I mean, not had any major outages for any particular length of time. We get the odd grizzle from people around that, but you know, whether that's Targetprocess, whether that's working on VPN, whether that's working on Wi-Fi, you don't know. Generally, the response is pretty good. Certainly keen to see the infrastructure improvements that Targetprocess was talking about yesterday, what that's going to do, because in my eyes, that should speed things up. So I think generally we're okay. We're not too bad.
Just maybe to add to that from our side, Paddy Power Betfair is hosted on a private cloud.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I should have said that.
Yeah, in London. Doesn't make any big difference, but it's just an important detail.
Yeah, just to add on that, we had to go for a private cloud instance as opposed to public because of some of the IP that we're keeping in Targetprocess. So we had to do that from a security and sort of business protection perspective.
Do you use timesheet reporting in Targetprocess to collect actual effort spent on the projects?
God, no. I mean, timesheets, that's so 20th century, man. We hate timesheets, right? Everyone hates timesheets. Timesheets don't give you very accurate record of what's actually being done. One thing I will give my finance partner credit for is he hates timesheets as well. He's actually worked out that how we do our reconciliation between effort and cost is basically that effort that's been expended against user stories and bugs. So we're using the tool, I think, really cleverly to get away from the, excuse my language, ball ache of doing timesheets and actually getting a real measure of what's actually being done by using the data that we've got in Targetprocess.
Can you detail a bit more on the ServiceNow integration? We do use ServiceNow also, and the integration with TP is a key challenge for us.
Okay, so yeah, we're on baby steps with that at the moment. We've had quite a lot of change in that organization, in the ServiceNow team we've got. At the moment, we do our access management through ServiceNow into Targetprocess, and that's for basically regulatory, sort of like access management, security type requirements. So people come in, they log a ticket in ServiceNow. There's an integration with Targetprocess that the user gets spat out the other end, and then we go and do that. And we've got a couple of manual steps in there at the moment that we're trying to iron out. We've got the ServiceNow team itself have actually spun up an integration that their requests get automatically converted into stories in Targetprocess. They're still, funnily enough, being ServiceNow, they're quite ITIL-oriented and still on that sort of ticketing model, which we're not a great fan of over the business as a whole, but there's pockets of that still. But going forward, I think incidents should be quite easy. We'd take an incident gets raised, we'd map an assignment group in ServiceNow to a team in Targetprocess. We'd then look to push a user story or a bug from that incident into that backlog. That should be quite straightforward. The technology is not the hard bit, as hopefully most of you know, is actually setting out the criteria and what that workflow looks like and the decision points on pushing that data in. Change, I think, is going to be a little bit more difficult because change is a lot more nuanced around what you need to put into the change ticket that comes out of the story. But like, we'll have to see about that. So I'll try and keep you posted next time at one of these. Hold me to account on like how far we have or haven't got with that.
Sure. We also have two people from TaskTop in the room today, so integrations with tools like ServiceNow can be discussed with these guys directly. Please raise your hands. Here we go. What size is your software development team?
It's about 700. I think that's spread across about 50 teams, 60 teams? About 50, 60 teams, yeah. Cool. Got down to, we've reduced it down now, so we're moving to this squads model. So there'll be squads of four to five.
Good. Maybe as last question, any major drawback on your TP usage?
Any major drawback?
All right, let's go to the next question.
No, yeah. You can pay me later, there you go, that's all right. I think, okay, if you want a response on that, I think the flexibility and the USP of Targetprocess, which is you can cut the data in the tool any which way you want, for some of our end users who basically just need to be moving cards left to right on the board, I think at times the interface is a little bit overcomplicated for them and people get a bit confused on some of the things they've got to do. And that's a problem that we need to sort out as opposed to Targetprocess, I would say.
I hope that was a question from one of our Targetprocess folks, hidden behind anonymous. All right, so thank you, Charlie.
Cool.
Let's see. Other questions, you can come to Charles later.